Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Oh, well, okay, it's still morning. You have another 14 minutes till I can say good afternoon. So hello, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn event, the Caregiver Journey, Caring for the Future. I'm Linda Levin, CEO of Elder Source, the area agency on aging and the Aging and Disability Resource Center for Northeast Florida. We are a nonprofit organization who has been serving 7 counties in this area for over 50 years now. Did you know that our helpline gets more than 5,000 calls a month from people looking for all kinds of information and resources, many of which are caregivers, many maybe some of you. And the resources we try to help connect people to help them to stay living in their homes and remaining independent in the community for as long as possible. And we are proud to be a sponsor for the series and today's particular event. Today's Lunch and Learn session, Caring for the Future, is the third in a series of community events designed with you and me, the caregiver, in mind. If you missed the first 2 events, and I see some very familiar faces, so welcome back. But if you missed the first 2 events, we're pleased to let you know that the presentations have been recorded and you can view them on the WJCT website at wjct.org/caregiving, along with, the important information and resources shared by the subject matter experts at those events. So you could still benefit from that information by going to that website. Being here today, chances are you need these resources and support from subject matter experts to be the best caregiver you can be. Your health and well-being matter deeply to us because supporting you means strengthening the care you're able to provide. Speaking of health and well-being, I want to take just a minute and bring your attention to a flyer in your Elder Source bag if you picked one up, and if not, make sure you pick one up on your way out. And it is about better age. If you go to the QR code or to the website, go to our website and go to Better Age, you have an opportunity to take a self-assessment. It's 7 or 10 minutes, that's it. It's confidential, but it will give you a report on where you are in your journey on health and wellness and give you additional resources, tips, and information to zero in on those areas that you would like to work on and be able to track your progress. It's free and it's available to you, and like I said, it's confidential, so please, I hope you take advantage of that opportunity. There's a common phrase given to caregivers: you can't pour from an empty cup, meaning you must take care of yourself first in order to be the best caregiver you can be. So check out the Better Age resource, and I'll move on from that very brief public service announcement now. So this event and the others over the next couple of weeks are part of a national engagement campaign featuring the 2-hour documentary from executive producer Bradley Cooper, Caregiving. Caregiving is the story of paid and unpaid caregivers navigating the challenges and joys of this deeply meaningful work. Intertwining intimate personal stories with the untold history of caregiving, the documentary reveals the state and the stakes of care in America today. You can find information about how to watch Caregiving, again, at wjct.org/caregiving. Before I introduce our speakers, I want to acknowledge and thank our sponsors: WJCT Public Media, Elder Source, Allevia Care, Brooks Rehabilitation, Legends Senior Living, Pine Castle, the Arthur Vining Davis Foundation, Comfort Keepers, River Garden Senior Services, Modified Independence, and Community Catalyst. Let's give them a round of applause for their commitment. And now I am pleased to introduce you to today's subject matter experts. I will introduce all 3, and then they will share with you what they know and you will have opportunity when they're done for Q&A, for questions and answers, and there is also a drawing, so stick around. So our first speaker, Megan Wall, received her bachelor's and master's and law degree from the University of Florida. Go Gators. And has worked at Legal Services as an attorney since graduating in 1991. She's currently the managing attorney for St. Johns County Legal Aid in St. Augustine, Florida, a nonprofit public interest law firm that serves the elderly, people living with disabilities, and low-income people living in St. Johns County. In addition to her legal work, she has served and continues to serve on many bar committees and local social service organizations. And I've known Megan for a number of years now. She is the advocate's advocate. She's supreme, and herself shared a story with me while we were sitting about helping a family friend who is a caregiver by providing some support. So thank you for that, Megan. Karen Rees is a registered nurse and executive director of Local PACE, which is the program for all-inclusive care for the elderly. The organization is committed to helping older adults live safely and independently in the community. As the director, Karen leads strategic operations that support aging adults in maintaining independence, dignity, and quality of life. Her work focuses on building interdisciplinary teams, driving innovation and access to quality care, and ensuring that frail adults in the community receive support with dignity and respect. Known for her compassionate leadership and operational excellence, Karen is passionate about empowering caregivers, improving outcomes for vulnerable populations, and advocating for systems and honoring the whole person. Thank you, Karen. And Karen is with Olivia Care, as I mentioned, one of our sponsors for this event. You're responsible personally, right? Karen Murillo is an Associate State Director of Advocacy for AARP Florida, who works on state policy impacting Florida's 50-plus population, including legislation focused on supporting family caregivers across the state. Prior to joining AARP, Karen served as a criminal prosecutor, first in Palm Beach County, Florida, then as an assistant statewide prosecutor and the senior protection team coordinator for the Florida Office of the Attorney General. Karen currently serves as co-chair of the Florida Bar Elder Law Section's Abuse, Neglect, and Exploitation Committee. Also someone who I've had the honor of working with on our very own local elder abuse fatality review team. Also an amazing advocate. So welcome, Karen. Thank you, all three, and I will turn it over to you, starting with you, Megan.
Thank you. And they told me I had to use PowerPoints, even though I don't like them. And they told me I had to use this clicker, even though I don't know how. And that's okay. You got to learn new things, right? You got to learn new things. So St. Johns County Legal Aid, she already told you, we're a nonprofit. And there's a Jacksonville area legal aid that we're a part of, covers 17 counties. I just happen to be doing a lot in St. Johns County. And so, you know, I speak all the time, and they thought, well, bring her up here for a day. So what they asked me to talk about today, I just want to demystify this whole thing. A lot of times in law, there's all the same names for different documents, right? There's living trust, living will, regular will. It's like they're all sound the same, and people's eyes just glaze over. So what I wanted to do today was make it really simple. What I'm here to talk about today are documents you need, and by the way, you all need them. Okay, put your own mask on first and then help everyone else. Anyone 18 years and older needs an advance directive. Okay, everyone hear that? This is not just for those you care for. This is for you, your children, your brothers, your sisters, everyone. Okay, so what is an advance directive are things you need only when you are alive. Okay, I know this sounds simple now, but people often try to use them after someone dies. There's a big line. You're either alive and then your advance directives are valid, or you die, your advance directives die with you. Do you get it? It's really important that you don't try to sell houses and do stuff after someone passes away with the power of attorney. Okay, so the simple thing about an advance directive, listen to the words. Directive. A directive is an order. Anyone out here ever been in the military? You get directives, right? Move over there. When do you get these directives? In advance of having to move over there, right? So the word itself, advance directive, means you're directing people in the future about what you want. And you're deciding that now, right? If I cannot make my own health choices, I want this person to do it. And if he or she can't do it, I want the backup person to do it. Do you get why that's in advance? I don't need anyone to make decisions for me right now. I'm making decisions. And hopefully that's plan A. And hopefully I'll make decisions and then I'll die. I don't ever need anything, right? That would be great. But sometimes you need help, right? The word in law is called incapacitated, or you have the lack of capacity or ability to do what you're being asked to do, right? So if I can't speak because I'm going into surgery, someone else has to make health choices for me while I'm unconscious or incapacitated. That's called a health care surrogate in Florida. A surrogate's a fancy word. Why do they keep using all these fancy words? Do you think anyone knows that word surrogate? No one knows it. It means a substitute person for you, a surrogate. On top of that, all 50 states have different terms for these things, which just confuses it all the more. But the healthcare surrogate's obvious, and it's easy. I can't make health choices. This person's going to talk for me, consent to medical treatment, or deny medical treatment, whatever they decide to do that's in my best interest. That's a healthcare surrogate. And the other really easy one, although it's got a weird name, is called living will, right? That says, I'm end stage, I'm terminal, I'm in a persistent vegetative state, I'm completely incapacitated. 2 doctors have said there's no probability of my recovery. Do you hear all that? It says, look, I'm already on my deathbed. Don't put me on machines indefinitely. You want to put me on machines to assess, figure out stuff, wait for someone to arrive? Sure, but not on and on and on and on. Some people come in, they call it the Terry Schiavo document. You guys are from Florida. It's a big Florida case, and when we had that case in Florida where she was on those machines for 18 years, people were flooding in my office like, please, I've got to sign one of these. Well, thankfully, the hospice centers, all of them, as far as I know, we have 3 in St. Johns County, they came up with a little pamphlet booklet. You can sign who your healthcare surrogate is, and you can sign a living will right in those little pamphlets. They're called honoring choices, compassionate choices, 5 wishes. They have different names, but you can call any, hospice center, and they'll give you those documents. At least do that. That's minimal. Now, the big one, the one that's really powerful, the one that's a pre-need guardianship. Do you hear that? I'll go over what a guardianship is in a minute. It's a court order that says this person makes all choices for you. You make no choices. A guardianship's a really big deal. But a pre-need guardianship is called a durable power of attorney. And what that means is you're signing now, and I've done one, you're signing now that this person can not just make health choices, but they have access to all your finances. They can pay bills. They can hire attorneys to sue the drunk driver that hit me. They can go to court. They can sign leases. They can buy and sell my property. They could cash in my 401k. They could take out a credit card in my name. Do you hear how much power this is? Now, in the hands of guardian angels, this is an excellent thing to have done in advance. If you have guardian angels in your life, and I do, thankfully, and I hope you do, if not, get to know people. Guardian angels are great things to appoint in advance of needing them. If I ever have lack of capacity, and I can't pay my bills and pay my mortgage and pay my property taxes and keep my, license going and my auto insurance paid and all that stuff, because I'm going to be unconscious for 3 months or in a rehab center, I want all that to be done so that when I get out, my life is okay. And I didn't lose my apartment, have my car repossessed, have my house foreclosed on. Do you see how keeping things going is a really helpful thing? If you have a guardian angel, appoint them to be your durable power of attorney. They can do anything you can do, which is a lot of power, but that's, if you have good people, you want them to have all that power, right? Okay, someone said right. Thank you, Pat. I love Pat Vale, really great guardian angel right here. I would appoint her in a second. Most ethical, honest, former JALA attorney. Love this woman, great advocate. And she's not in my family, which brings up the next slide, I think. See how, thank you, she's helping me. See, she's already helping my speech and everything. A guardian angel should be the most ethical person you know. It does not have to be anyone in your family. It does not have to be anyone who lives near you. It could be anywhere on the planet or the space station. Anyone can be your durable power of attorney. It's really important to pick ethically. Now, of course, the less you have, the less risk it is, right? Like I always say, if somebody really wants to go to prison for stealing from me, that's a cheap thief, right? You're going to get one paycheck and everything else is mortgaged to the hilt. But, that's the way it is for me and some other people in the world. So it's really important not to think about, well, I just have this one child or I just have this one person. Think outside the box. Who would just do a great job for you? Now, the other thing is the durable power of attorney has the money, right, to pay the co-pays, the deductibles. How many people think healthcare has a little bit of financial connection? Oh, my Lord. My husband's going to have an operation. They're like, your copay is $3,000. I'm like, okay, so healthcare also has financial. So if you have somebody making health decisions for you that doesn't have the pocketbook or your bank account, they're not listening to that person, right? Your healthcare surrogate should be the same person as your durable power of attorney. I want this operation for my spouse, and I have his checkbook, right? For those of you who remember what a checkbook is, see? Right, I have his bank account. So it's really important to make sure you choose people that you think are going to be ethical, moral, responsible, do a good job, and of course not steal. Goes without saying, right? The other really important thing, though, and I've come to realize this after doing this for a few decades now, is also someone who understands you and understands where you are on this continuum. And the continuum is total safety and security or total freedom and danger. You're hearing me, aren't you? People that say, I want them to be safe, right? And they are safe in some places. Places that you can't get out of, for example, places that have a lot of people hovering. Other people say, you know what, no matter what, I just want to be over here in the woods in a tent. Just leave me, right? So you've got to figure out what the person wants. Do they want more security and safety, or do they want more freedom, even if it means they might need an alert button or they might fall and no one's there? Like, where is that? And it's really important, and I don't have to explain that more deeply in the short time I've got, but you've got to do what the person would want. Does that make sense? It's really important to give your power of attorney to someone who's going to abide by your wishes and not what they would want or what they think is best for you, even if they know that's what you would hate, right? Determinate, okay. See, I don't like the slides. They made me use them. A guardianship is what we're avoiding by doing these advanced, directive, durable powers of attorney pre-need guardians. That's a mouthful, right? But that has to be done by a lawyer in Florida to be accepted by banks or financial institutions. They want to know an attorney met with that person one-on-one. Sorry, no caregivers in the room. Nobody influencing the decision. The person themselves have to have the ability and capacity to say, yes, I know who I am, I know who they are, this is what I want, and I understand the power. And I understand the incredible power in front of two witnesses and a notary who all agree I had the capacity to sign that. Do you see where I'm going with this? Some of you are probably caregiving for people. They didn't do a durable power of attorney in time, and now they have lost capacity. I get calls like this about 3 times a day. You know, she can't come to the phone. She doesn't, you know. If someone hasn't done their directive in advance of incapacity, it's too late. So that means that they or you or whomever have to hire an attorney, 3 expert witnesses that are not cheap, doctors, and they have to go to court and get a court order for the exact same thing you could have signed in advance. So advance directives are a stitch in time. Do you get it? It's really important that all of you do it, and your children and everybody. Get it done. And they're good in all 50 states. They're good in our territories. They're good for all time unless something changes. You give them voluntarily and you revoke them voluntarily, right? So if anybody really starts to gamble or gets an addiction, and that's not just someone else's family, that's our family too, you have to keep alert and you have to revoke it really quickly, okay? So I don't think, looks like my slides did know what I was gonna say, which is good. But I think it's really important that you understand what the documents are, and you understand they have nothing to do with who your heirs are or who gets your stuff or what happens when you die. This is about quality of life. And I think it's more and more important, and these ladies are up here to tell you, it's more and more important now than ever because we're keeping people alive way past their capacity to actually help themselves or make decisions. And this is a new world, right? I mean, I think my great-great-grandparents, I don't remember, you know, years and years of them not knowing who they were or having those kind of end-stage issues. But it's a reality now, and these things need to be done sooner rather than later. Does that make sense? I hope I made that simple, and that is what a durable power of attorney is, and it avoids the guardianship order in court, which can be $5,000 or $10,000. And I know I don't have that, my loved ones don't have that. So I've done all my advance directives in advance and made sure that I always have them at the bank, in the glove box of my car with all my doctors. I drop them from airplanes. Just kidding. I want everyone to have it. I want it to be used when I need it, and I trust the people in it. And it's really important to get that done. Thanks. You got the clicker. I'm so bad with that.
I think you hold on to that. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Hello, everyone. My name is Karen. I am the Executive Director of Pace Place and a nurse by trade. Super happy to be here with you all and to talk about the future of caregiving. And here, let me go through these slides a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to be talking today about the PACE model of care, and the PACE model of care is really kind of a new frontier for caregivers and for caregiving in general, focusing on older adults who have really complex care needs. So what is PACE? So PACE stands for Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. And PACE is a Medicare and Medicaid program that provides community-based services to participants who are 55 years or older who would otherwise need a nursing home level of care. Okay, so when we think about PACE, typically we think about it in 4 C's. So it's, again, super integrated model and can sometimes be complex to think about. So the 4 C's that we're going to talk about today and throughout the slides, number 1 is community-based. So all of PACE services are provided in the community. So whether that is in the home or in the day center, that is part of all PACE programs. The goal of PACE overall as a model is to keep participants in the home living safe and independently for as long as possible. So the second C is comprehensive. So PACE provides all Medicare, Medicaid, and medically necessary services, regardless of how much it costs or the frequency or intensity of services. And there's no benefit limitations, deductibles, or copays. So everything from primary care services, which we'll talk about in a little bit, to transportation, to respite, to meal support in the home or at the center, to home care aides, you name it. We're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth here soon, but the services that PACE provides are comprehensive and cover both Medicare, Medicaid, and medically necessary services. Number 3 is capitated, and so what capitated means is typically right around this time, once we start talking about services, we get the question of, well, how do you guys pay for all this, right? How are you able to provide these kinds of services in the community? So PACE receives capitated payments, which just means a lump, fixed sum amount of money from Medicare and Medicaid on a monthly basis. And then PACE programs are entrusted to provide all of those services that are needed, again, regardless of the participant's need or the frequency or intensity of those services or how much they cost. So PACE is able to do and provide all of these services at a very personal and individualized level by receiving these funds from Medicare and Medicaid on a monthly basis. And then lastly, PACE provides coordinated care. So one of the foundations and tenets of the PACE model is what we call an interdisciplinary team, which we'll talk about a little bit more here shortly. And so the interdisciplinary team with PACE really provides all of those comprehensive services and coordinates them across care settings. So again, whether you're in the home, whether your loved one has a fall and ends up in the hospital and then in short-term rehab, PACE coordinates care regardless of that care setting. So the PACE philosophy, so really at the heart of PACE is honoring the wants and needs of frail adults and their families. So anybody who has cared for an older adult understands that it's really important to be cared for in a familiar environment and to maintain autonomy of their care and their choices, right? To have the dignity of choice and be part of that decision-making process, as Megan was talking about just a few minutes ago, and also to maintain that social, cognitive, and physical function in the home and in the community for as long as possible. So really, again, at the heart of PACE is the belief that it's better wherever possible for older adults who have complex care needs and their caregivers to be cared for in the community setting. So just a little bit about the PACE background, and this might be kind of small, but PACE started in the 1970s, so in the San Francisco Bay Area, in the neighborhood of Chinatown. The community there realized that existing care models weren't really meeting the needs of adults in that community. So it wasn't practical for a large nursing home institution to come be set up in this neighborhood. And so in 1971, the first PACE program started, which is called Unlock, in that Chinatown neighborhood in San Francisco. And so today there are 186 PACE programs over 33 different states, and they're in both rural areas, inner cities, and also at the Cherokee Nation reservation as well. And so while some of these programs might vary a little bit state to state, the heart of all these programs and the services they provide is that they all empower older adults and those with disabilities to remain safe and independent at home for as long as possible. All right. So who does PACE serve? So we've talked a little bit about what PACE is. So in order to be eligible for PACE, participants have to be 55 years of age or older. They have to live in a PACE service area, and typically these are defined by counties and then certain zip codes within the counties. They have to be certified to meet nursing home level of care by the state, but able to live safely and independently at home with the support of PACE services at the time of enrollment. And so just to look a little bit at kind of the mix of insurance and participants here. So about 80.5% are dual eligible, which means they have Medicaid and Medicare. About 19% have Medicaid only, and then less than 1% pay a premium for PACE services. Okay, so we've talked very broadly about who's eligible for PACE, but I want to take a little bit closer look at the makeup of an average PACE participant. And some of this might look familiar to you all, right? It might remind you of somebody that you're caring for. So PACE serves our seniors, and so 94% of PACE participants are able to remain living in the community, which is huge. So that means only about 6% of PACE participants actually end up having to reside in a nursing home. The average age of a PACE participant is about 75 years old, and 65% are women. And so here at the bottom, you'll see PACE helps with all kinds of activities of daily living. And this might be familiar to you all. Most of PACE participants need help with at least one of these activities of daily living. So whether that's dressing, bathing, toileting, transferring, walking, right? And most PACE participants need help with at least one, but many need help with 3 or more. So PACE, through the interdisciplinary team and the services that we provide, can help focus on improving these ADLs in the home, activities of daily living, or ADLs, either by providing services in the home or providing services at the PACE center itself. So again, looking a little bit more at PACE participants. So the average PACE participant has about 6 chronic conditions. And this, again, this list may look familiar to you all, everything from vascular disease to depression, bipolar disorder, congestive heart failure, COPD, and 46% of PACE participants actually have dementia. On an average, PACE participants are getting 6 prescriptions per month, sometimes more, sometimes less. And from the services that PACE provides, including transportation, so PACE does provide transportation to and from outside appointments, to and from the day center, where they can receive socialization, or they can be seen by the primary care provider or see the therapy team. So on average, PACE participants are receiving about 10 trips a month and about 4 visits to that PACE center. So as a whole, nationally, PACE programs are providing above 34,000 meals per day to PACE participants. So this model, this visual here, talks about the PACE interdisciplinary team. And so you've heard me talk about that, and this is really the heartbeat of PACE. And so the interdisciplinary team, we're required to have at least these 11 members that you see here. So caregivers and participants immediately have access to the expertise and specialty of all of these disciplines when enrolling with PACE. So everything from primary care to nursing to social work, PT, OT, home care, transportation or the driver, a CNA or home health aide, and then a dietitian and our activities coordinator. So all of these disciplines are involved in the development of the care plan for PACE participants and involved in making sure that the services that are needed are delivered in a timely and safe manner. And again, the goal with the interdisciplinary team is to make sure that the PACE participant is able to remain safe and independent at home for as long as possible. So PACE is kind of like an umbrella, and so it's unique in the sense that PACE is both the healthcare provider, right? So we're providing services, all of these disciplines that you see are providing care, and then PACE is also the health plan. So it's the insurance company, and so it really allows that care coordination across all those settings. And it's much more seamless. I don't know if you all have experienced this in healthcare, but sometimes it can be a little fractured, right? We can have, our primary care office doesn't talk to our specialist office, and then we're trying to get other resources in the community, and nobody's talking, right? And it can be really frustrating and really challenging as a caregiver, especially to try to manage some of that care. And so with PACE, everything is in one place. So participants and caregivers are able to speak directly with the interdisciplinary team, collaborate with them to come up with that plan of care and the services that they need. And PACE also helps manage those prescriptions and outside appointments. So it takes some of that burden off of care coordination. Okay. PACE is a Medicare Part D plan, so like I just mentioned, PACE does provide all prescription drugs. Again, no benefit limitations, copays, or deductibles. PACE provides all of that. So some other services that we provide that I've kind of alluded to here, we can do nursing visits, whether that's in the home or at the center, social services. So all PACE programs have an adult day center function. So participants can choose to attend the day center as often or as little as they want. And while they're there, they can participate in activities, socialize, provide meals. We help do laundry there, toilet, showers, all things like that. And then in the same building with the adult day center, there is the clinic. So if they're at the center playing bingo and then have a clinical need, right, they can immediately be seen by a clinician. And then also the therapy team is there as well. So it's kind of the hub for that interdisciplinary team that we've been talking about. PACE does provide and pay for all of the medical specialists that might be needed. So just a few are listed up here, things like audiology, dentistry, optometry, podiatry. We provide transportation, meal support, so whether that's home meal delivery, nutritional supplements, durable medical equipment, supplies, and home care aid and support in the home. So it's a lot of resources for both participants and caregivers. And so the comprehensive nature of those resources is really what helps participants remain safe and independent in the community. So if at any time a PACE participant does need hospital care or nursing home care or even short-term rehab, PACE continues to follow and help coordinate that care regardless of where they are. So again, really helpful for caregivers and participants to have that interdisciplinary team who knows them really well continue to follow them throughout that care continuum. So what does PACE mean for caregivers? So for caregivers, we've been talking about some of the support that it provides, but it's really that one-stop shop for caregivers. So like we mentioned, talking about the fractured nature of healthcare, right? With PACE, having the interdisciplinary team at your fingertips, it's just one place where you can go to talk about, hey, mom is having some change in her ability to walk at home, or, we're having issues with her using the toilet, right? What can we do about that? PACE can provide therapy services, home modification, put grab bars in there and help with equipment, right? So it's a lot of resources, just directly day-to-day changes, and then also helping coordinate care with medical specialists, which can be another very overwhelming thing to deal with as a caregiver. PACE does provide respite. So in home, we can provide respite care through home health aides. So whether that is, 1 time a week, 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 7 days a week, right? That can be coordinated. It's all based on the interdisciplinary team, assessments, the needs of the participant, right? And what it takes to keep them safe and independent at home. But those services can be provided in the home to help support caregivers. The day center as well that I just mentioned is open 5 days a week. And so this is really great because it allows caregivers not only to just get a break from caregiving, which it can be a lot, right? It can cause a lot of burden and overwhelm sometimes to be a caregiver. So it allows caregivers to have a break during the week, but also allows them to continue working if needed, right? It doesn't take away from your ability to continue to care for yourself and your family. And then we also provide respite in the community. So again, all of the services that we're talking about are paid for by PACE. They're managed by PACE. So if you have a cruise that you've been planning for 2 years, right, and you're going to be gone for 5 days and you want to make sure that your loved one is safe, and has 24-hour care, PACE can help coordinate that through our community partnerships. We talked about in-home services. So again, care provided in the home via home care aides, personal care aides, and also, all of the services that are provided at the PACE Center can actually be provided in the home. So we can do therapy in the home. We can make a, primary care provider visit in the home. So you have that option. And there's 24/7 support. So PACE provides care and is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So whether it is 1 a.m. and something's going on and you want to be able to talk to the nurse on call or the doctor on call, your PACE team is there for you. And then personalized care in the community. So again, the heartbeat of PACE is to make sure and to support participants remaining safe and independent at home for as long as possible. So how PACE helps caregivers thrive, we've talked a little bit about this, but number one, relieving caregiver stress. So even just by assisting with things like providing transportation to doctor's appointments that maybe you can't attend, or it's a lot for you to get your loved one to and from the home to a doctor's appointment, right? PACE can help with that. Providing respite or additional supports in the home, PACE can help with that. Gives you back time. So sometimes being a caregiver and coordinating care for a loved one can take up a lot of time, right? Especially when you're having to talk to different specialists and different, community partners, right? So with PACE, you're able to have that one-stop shop that really gives you back the time that you would have been spending coordinating care and allows you to be present with your loved one. Offers professional support and guidance. So again, you saw that visual of the interdisciplinary team, right? Those are all of the disciplines, 11 different experts in their field that you have access to immediately upon enrollment. Education and empowerment. So talking through, as your loved one gets older, as the disease progresses, or whatever might happen, whatever changes may come, right? PACE is there to help empower and support caregivers along the way. And then again, build a circle of support. So PACE is really kind of an extension of caregivers, right? In the home, in the center, wherever they might need. And so the PACE interdisciplinary team is an extension kind of you as the caregiver. So 95% of caregivers would recommend PACE to somebody in a similar situation. So this was done at the national level across all PACE programs in 33 different states. I think this just goes to show the amazing amount of support and access to support that caregivers provide. So to talk a little bit about, we've talked about PACE in general and kind of at the national level. We do have a local PACE program here. It's actually the only PACE program in Northeast Florida. Opened its doors in March 1st of 2020. Height of COVID, right? Perfect time to open up. But we are a not-for-profit corporation solely designed to bring the amazing PACE services to our community. And so PACE Place started as a joint venture with Aging True and Community Hospice and Palliative Care, and we are now fully owned by Community Hospice and Palliative Care. So our center is off of Ramona Boulevard on the west side, so not too far from here, but very happy to be part of kind of this national movement and new frontier for caregiving and care for the elders in our community. So I think that's all I have. There's more information here if you want to learn about PACE in general and also find out if PACE is available in other states. And then also put our phone number up there if you have any questions directly or know somebody who might benefit from PACE. So thank you all for allowing me to speak today. Thank you.
And I'm supposed to follow that, right? Okay. So when we talk about looking at some of these resources that these amazing ladies have described for us, we're talking about really looking into the future, right? Planning for the future, preparing for the future. And let me just ask, because I'm here representing AARP, how many of you know that AARP has caregiver resources available? Good, I'm seeing some great hands raised. That's awesome. Oftentimes when I ask that question, people go, don't you guys offer health insurance or, I don't know, auto insurance, something? AARP does a lot of things, but one of the things that we do very well is advocating on behalf of adults who are 50 years of age and older, those who care for them, their family members, their loved ones. We are the largest nationwide organization advocating for the 50-plus population. And that absolutely includes caregivers, because our 50-plus population are both receiving care from caregivers and are caregivers themselves. So we've spent quite a bit of time really emphasizing caregiver resources and caregiver advocacy. And one of the things that I want you to know, if you don't remember anything else from today's presentation, what I hope that you take away from this is you are not alone. You are seen, you are valued, not just by AARP or these wonderful ladies who are here on the stage with me. You are seen and valued by so many. And we make sure to ask the questions of family caregivers so that we can advocate for the right policies in Washington, D.C., in Tallahassee, at all levels. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that looks like. So we've actually just released, hot off the presses, end of July, a new family caregiving survey that goes into detail about kind of the scope of what family caregivers are seeing, doing, how large this population really is. And what we're seeing is over the past 25 plus years of tracking this information, we've seen a 45% increase in family caregivers. There are now 63 million Americans acting as family caregivers in the US. Just think about that for a minute. 63 million. And one of the things that may or may not occur to you when you start thinking about that robust number, you are a voting bloc. You are a voting bloc that matters to politicians at all levels, and they're listening. Not only because 1 in 4 Americans are serving as family caregivers, or 2.7 million caregivers here in Florida, not only because the 2.6 billion hours of care provided equates, and this is just in Florida, folks, equates to over $40 billion in unpaid labor. Think about that impact that you have, the economic, the non-economic, the things that we can't, the intangible that we can't value and put into context. Lawmakers are starting to see that, and they're recognizing that if they don't support family caregivers, in fact, I'll tell you, many of our legislators in Tallahassee themselves are finding themselves in a new role as caregivers. So there's a lot of reasons why they're realizing that this is important. But they're realizing that they need to support you in order to sustain the long-term care and well-being of our nation. And that's a pretty powerful voice. So when we talk about some of the stats and information, I'm not just trying to preach at you the numbers. I mean, honestly, you probably can relate to many of the things and tell me a thing or two about the caregiving experience and what matters most. But we take information from these studies and we compile it year after year so that we can speak with one voice. In Tallahassee, in Washington, D.C., we can speak one voice for caregivers and what they need most. And caregivers are rapidly experiencing more and more stressful, high-demand situations. They're working longer hours. They're dealing with more complex living arrangements and caring arrangements. And so family caregivers have a lot of needs. One of those needs is financial support. We asked family caregivers what types of financial support would be most beneficial. How can we help sustain you? And the reality is that many family caregivers are taking time off of work or having to step away from work entirely. The reality is that the average American family caregiver pays about $7,200 a year out of pocket to cover expenses associated with care. for the person they're giving care for. That's a lot of money. So tax credits would go a long way. We've got a robust, almost 70% of the people who responded to this nationwide survey said, yep, a tax credit would be a great start. So we're working on that, and I'm gonna tell you about that in a minute. Also, talking about how to provide some form of compensation or offset the financial impact. We're working on this too. And there's a lot of ways that we can approach this, but I'll tell you some actually achievable things that are happening, some reason to have hope for what might happen this year or in the near future. We have the Credit for Caring Act. This is a bill that is currently, it's been filed this year. We have a robust support in Congress on this. And as I said earlier, the fact that we have 63 million American caregivers and the politicians who are in Tallahassee and DC are taking notice, they are. In fact, the presidential election most recently in 2024, caregiver support was a huge priority and question that was asked of both of the presidential candidates, and both presidential candidates vowed to make caregiving a priority, supporting caregivers specifically a priority. And we see this in the Credit for Caregiving Act. It's a tax credit that would help to offset that money that we were talking about, that $7,200 of out-of-pocket expenses. It would help to compensate or offset those costs for family caregivers. It covers 30% of the cost of qualified expenses up to, or over $2,000, I should say, up to $5,000 total. So caregivers could be seeing a significant portion of this coming back to them or in the form of a tax credit. Another thing that we are working on with members of Congress, this Lowering Costs for Caregivers Act. This allows family caregivers to utilize these pre-tax health expense payment accounts in ways and for people who traditionally they've not applied to. These qualified medical spending accounts traditionally only apply to yourself, to your dependent, to your spouse. With the Lowering Costs for Caregivers Act, this would now apply to parents. So caregivers would be able to use these important resource-saving resources or tools for when caring for parents or parents-in-law. So we recognize that, you know, caregivers are stepping into this role in a variety of capacities. So this is another exciting piece, and I highlighted up at the top of this slide. We have one of our sponsors of the bill is a Florida congressman, Representative Vern Buchanan. We are working on this at all levels, and I'm going to tell you about the state level in a minute. But before I do, let's talk about caregiver support. I think that both of these ladies have talked to you about how caregiver supports are important, especially Karen talking about the PACE program and kind of the holistic care experience that they provide. We recognize that it can be overwhelming as a caregiver. There's so many things that when you're thrust into that role, you suddenly have to become an expert at so many things you never knew before. So what are some of the ways that we could help offset some of those stresses? How could we help? Well, you know, we've talked about respite care a little bit in this, and PACE is a tremendous example of a respite care program that needs funding, and that we advocate every year in Tallahassee to increase funding, increase the number of slots that are available, meaning the number of people who are cared for every year. We are advocating for it actively in Tallahassee. Karen told you, you know, this is something that comes from Medicare, and I would tell you the state legislature has a lot of power over how those funds end up getting allocated, where they're allocated, and we're fighting for that to make sure as many people can take advantage of this program as possible. And we see that training is another aspect of this. we are looking for ways to support training from medical providers. We've advocated for and obtained Medicaid policy that would allow doctors to be compensated when they provide training and take that extra time and care to really assist caregivers. So, I mean, making sure that they can be reimbursed for that was a big step. And not on this list, but something that I can very much relate to, one of the things that caregivers also are overwhelmed by is the sheer amount of paperwork and navigating things like eligibility processes. I mean, I know navigating the Social Security Administration and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, it's everybody's dream. It's what we all like to do for our afternoons, right? Spend hours on the phone. Well, one of the things that we are doing at the federal level is working on this Alleviating Barriers for Caregivers Act, which will provide, hopefully, more streamlined services and helpful options for caregivers in determining the eligibility, in finding the benefits and access to the resources they need through Social Security Administration and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. And this is something that I think every one of us who has been on the phone with one of these agencies can say, there's some things that could be improved, right? This is actively being worked on, and again, we have a very robust congressional sponsor from here in Florida, actually, from a neighboring area, Kat Kamek. She's from the Gainesville area. I won't hold it against her or you, Megan, that you guys are Gators, but she's sponsoring some pretty healthy legislation that we're very excited about, and it's reason to hope. We also know that the vast majority of caregivers, I think the statistics are about 70%, if I'm not mistaken, are working. They're working a professional paid job in addition to providing caregiver support. So working with employers is another important aspect of this. And when we talk about how we're addressing the need of working caregivers, we're doing this through resources and education at AARP. We're making sure that caregivers know about how they can show up for their employees and maintain that institutional wisdom, not, do things to support a family caregiver and keep that person in-house without, losing them in the turnover that causes. But we also have had recent successes in Congress. We had legislation passed recently this summer that makes a tax credit for employers that offer paid leave for family caregivers. It's now a permanent tax credit. And it's something that it has also been expanded so that you only have to have worked with the employer for 6 months in order to qualify. So this is a big change too. This is a big improvement. We are seeing that policies are being set to incentivize employers to assist caregivers, support caregivers, provide opportunities for them to step away when needed without having to actually leave the workplace entirely. AARP is fighting for caregivers. We're fighting for the solutions that you all say you need, the ones that really do matter. And that sometimes involves things at the state level too. I know I talked a lot about policy at the federal level, but just like with funding and issues with PACE, with other community support, respite care options, these are all things that ultimately need funding. And we have to educate policymakers. We have to and do educate policymakers and advocate for their increased funding, because the problem, or not problem, but the need is certainly not decreasing. It is only increasing year after year. So we need to see those dollars that are going into these programs also likewise increasing year after year. And when we're talking about the, I think I went too far. When we're talking about the policies, policies and programs we are working for at the state level, this comes in the form of the respite care, it comes in the form of supporting amazing organizations like PACE, and it comes in the form of working for policies that help with for everything from employment to getting the resources and support that folks need. I want to make sure that, I don't know why this is going one at a time, but the caregiver resource page that we have available, want to make sure that you know about it and utilize it. Our caregiver resources cover some of the things that these ladies have talked about today, the pre-need planning, financial and legal advice, not advice, but resources, how to navigate certain medical issues. All of these things are covered, and if you use that QR code, it'll take you to the caregiver resource page. The URL is also provided there. And one thing I neglected to do earlier when we got to this page was to tell you the reason for the QR code on this page. If you are thinking, you know what, I want to join the fight for caregivers, I want to raise my voice and tell my congressman or congresswoman exactly how much caregiving resources mean and how policies related to caregiving are important, here's a great place to start. So join the fight, raise your hand. You guys are doing amazing things and we want to support you and fight for you. Get the ink?
I'm a member.
No? Oh, there we go. So let's give our panel another hand while I fix this mic. Good job. And thank you so much for your information that you shared with the group today. So valuable. We're going to shift now to questions and answers. We want to hear from you. This is your opportunity. We said it at the beginning, we're here for you. We're doing this for you. But we're going to ask you in the interest of time, keep your questions brief and focused, and then we'll try to get you what answers we can, and if we have to, even after today. Saturday is our last series in the series. It's several more other presenters, so I look forward to seeing you back here on Saturday as well. Lots of good information. Different panels will be speaking to you. We also will be doing a door prize, so don't leave just yet, because you have to be present. So let's do some Q&A. Who's got a question? Whoa.
Everybody.
Okay.
Everyone's got a question.
Do you want to take this mic, Andrea? You want to use
No, she can get one at the back.
Okay.
Thanks, y'all, for a substantive presentation. Is there an organization where I can contact and get for paid advocacy, legal work, elder care, just something, because I'm in a wash and everything you've said. I've done PACE and I've looked at the site and I've gone through AARP and everything, but this sort of I don't even know what my mother's eligible for in Medicare, so is there just I've looked online, and I've so we've gotten her power over the attorney, we got all that set up with an attorney. But he knew nothing.
And did you do yours
else.
too?
No, ma'am.
Oh.
I'm working on it. I know. It's on the to-do list.
ASAP.
Time with elder care.
You could start with Elder Source. In fact, the tagline is "Start Here for Help." But go to our website. There's lots of resource information there, and also our phone number is posted there. So just myeldersource.org, and we can help connect you to some different resources in the community. Okay, and feel free to reach out. We'll see what we could do to help. More questions?
A very specific question about a DNR. I went into the hospital to have surgery, and I had a DNR that had been prepared by an attorney and shared with the hospital. I was then told that it would not be honored unless it was a DNR. It would not be honored in the operating room unless it was a DNR prepared there on their form and then witnessed by someone that practiced there. Could you explain?
A DNR is not from lawyers. So it's very interesting that you said you got one from a lawyer. It's from two physicians, and it's a do not resuscitate. Generally, at the time, you are no longer going to receive medical care, right? So hospice is very familiar with that. If you are in the process of going into death and dying, do not resuscitate means it doesn't matter what else happened. If I got hit by lightning through the window, just do not bring the paddles back in. Let it go. So a DNR is two doctors at the time. I see it on my client's wrists now. It's a purple bracelet DNR. Used to be a gold sheet. It's not something you walk around with. Resuscitation and CPR, I mean, that's why we learn to do it. It's helpful in a lot of circumstances, but on your deathbed, you or your caregiver or your healthcare surrogate can ask for one.
Megan, I wonder if there's confusion about the living will versus a DNR.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think a living will is a DNR, and it is not. Yeah, no, very different documents. But talk to your lawyer more, or we could speak more about that. There's also the Florida Senior Legal Helpline. Mm-hmm. That is a great place to call. It's a legal aid that just takes calls, lawyers standing by on the phone. So maybe go ahead and call them for some information too, just to chit-chat about the different forms.
Okay, another question.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I was looking into a daycare for my husband, and I saw nothing, so I didn't know anything about PACE. And I did finally get one through the VA, but I did see on your pamphlet our zip code 32250 isn't on there.
Yeah, so PACE, currently our service areas are select zip codes in Duval and Clay County. So on the brochures, there is a list of service zip codes that we service. So if it's not on there, unfortunately, it's not in our service area.
PACE paid for by somebody who is on that list.
So PACE receives funding monthly from Medicare and Medicaid. So basically what happens with PACE is if you choose to elect PACE, then PACE becomes your insurance plan. So we actually become your insurance, and instead of Medicare and Medicaid paying traditional benefits out in the community, PACE receives the money and then coordinates all of the services. So PACE actually becomes the insurer.
Community hospice, your Medicare funds go there.
So it's a little bit different. So with something like hospice, right, you have a standard hospice benefit under, your Medicare benefit. PACE is different in the sense that PACE can provide things like hospice or end-of-life care services, but PACE receives funding from Medicare and Medicaid, and then we act as the insurance, and then we pay for and cover all of the services. So it's a little bit different, than just the hospice benefit.
I see that on PACE, on the chart there, that you have to be a member of Medicare and Medicaid participant to get the full coverage. But there was a part on the last line where if you had, like, we have Medicare, but we have an Advantage plan. Would we qualify at all for that? Or?
So you don't have to have both Medicare and Medicaid to qualify for PACE. So many people have both, right? They have Medicare and Medicaid, or they may just have Medicaid. Or if you only have Medicare, then there is an out-of-pocket cost. You would be responsible for paying the Medicaid rate. But with any eligibility question, something like getting off of a Medicare Advantage plan and making the switch, we could help just see if it would be something you'd be eligible for, because it's individualized per person. So it's something we could definitely talk about.
Hi, I'm shy, but okay, so I hear everything about the elderly, but my daughter, she's 21, but I don't hear nothing about her, and like, she's incapacitated, and so, but I hear about PACE for the elderly, but I don't hear anything about for, I guess, younger adults.
Yes, there are services available for folks who are under the age of 55, and those go through the Florida Department of Disability. We have a number of similar programs, and these have been recently funded in earnest by our legislature. So there are resources available. I would just suggest directing this question, just like what we were talking about with Linda, with going to ElderSource. Go to your local disability resource center and ask about eligibility and qualifying for one of those programs, because they do exist across the state.
Question over here.
I have a question regarding PACE.
Okay.
I was looking at the interdisciplinary
Team.
circle thing, and most of it is involving medical. What about the non-medical things like financial support? Is there any team members that are like that?
So within the interdisciplinary team, there are medical, clinical disciplines, and then there are, non-clinical disciplines as well. For example, the transportation coordinator, the driver, is a member of the interdisciplinary team. But the disciplines that can help with things like that would be the social worker on the team could help support caregivers with any additional financial questions or resources. And the team really comes together as a whole to help make sure that participants and caregivers have resources for any questions they might have.
Can I dovetail into that? This is really important. I was thinking about on the way up here. I talk a lot about it. A lot of caregivers, as you saw from this presentation, are not working, having a difficult time working, give up their life to do this, are not paying into Social Security, are not paying into their 401k, are not keeping up with technology. It is very difficult to go back into the workforce after you have been caregiving for someone 5, 10, or 20 years, and especially if you're an older woman, biggest discriminated group in the country. And so I really want, though, to encourage you to do real, frank discussions with your families about how you will be compensated and what you will get for doing this as a labor of love for the family. Because what I see a lot is self-help. And I call this using the power of attorney to put the house in your name or to put some finances in your own. And that is completely illegal. But I see what they're trying to do. Because I think it's really serious that you need to have a conversation with your family about what is my compensation going to be. I see people caregiving in the home 20 years, and when the caree dies, the house is sold, divided among 5 kids who had nothing to do with this, and the caregiver's homeless. Okay, it's very important to have a very serious discussion with family and friends about, am I going to get the lion's share or all of the inheritance? Just put it out there, because it's very important that you get compensated. You're not thinking of that now. You're just leading with your heart, but later, there's not going to be a safety net for you.
I'll plug a non-AARP resource in addition to AARP resources. We do have financial security and well-being for caregivers addressed in our caregiver resources, but there's also a tremendous resource called wiserwomen.org. Again, wiserwomen.org. And they have caregiver agreements, which is what Megan was talking about, really going through and highlighting with your family what the financial impact is on the person who's caregiving and outlining how they're going to be compensated or how things are going to be paid for. So it avoids that conflict later on. But we absolutely want to emphasize that caregivers need to be looking at their financial needs and long-term security too, which is hard to do, I know.
And not to mention the laws cutting out child support, a lot, alimony. Women are getting it from all directions, but men caregivers as well. You've got to be compensated or at least discuss what your plan's going to be.
All right, we're going to take 1 or 2 more questions.
Thank you all for your presentation. They were very meaningful. And Megan, thank you for that last part about re-entering the workforce after a substantial time off. When we do get our legal documents into place, what's the recommendation for updating them?
As long as it doesn't really change or the law doesn't change, you can leave it for a long time if the people in your documents are still able and available. I recently had to update my documents because I did them 30 years ago, and my mother-in-law is our backup person. And she said, honey, I'm 87. I'm not doing this. I had never thought of that because she's so, spry and wonderful. I was like, okay, you're right. I need to find some youngsters. But that's literally when you update, is if there's a law change or if you need to, or if the people in the documents are just really probably not going to be able to do that.
And make sure people know where to find them, because if your family members don't know that they exist or where to find them in the moments of need, they're not very helpful.
Glove compartment of every automobile, every single doctor's file, the bank, absolutely everyone in the document, and now put it in the cloud and send it to everybody electronically. These should be used, and people shouldn't be tricked into not signing as DPOA, because when you sign someone in, they say, oh, you can't sign that way unless we have a copy in the file, which, by the way, is not true and illegal for them to say. But it's really important that the caregiver not get sued, right? Everyone's bills are their own. And bills and debts do not transfer to anyone else, even spouses, okay? Debts die with people.
That's a good one to know.
Thank you very much. Just to clarify the PACE, what part of Medicare on the supplements does it replace? Because you have a supplement and a drug plan. So what plan does it replace?
So it replaces the standard Medicare benefit, and then we also are a Part D plan, so we provide all prescription drug coverage. Yep. Correct. Well, and if you have Medicare and Medicaid, or if you only have one or the other, you may or may not have to pay a premium. So it just depends on what current insurance you have in place and what current coverage. So it could look a little bit different. But typically, that benefit would be received from Medicare to PACE, and then PACE handles all of it from there. You don't have any other copays or deductibles.
Work for a person that's totally independent and doesn't need anything. When do you get PACE?
So somebody is eligible for PACE. A big criteria is that they have to meet nursing home level of care as defined by the state. So with PACE, if PACE wasn't in place, is how I think about it, right? Most of our all of our participants would be in a nursing home, right? So during part of the eligibility and enrollment process with PACE, the state actually does their own assessment to determine, does this person actually meet nursing home level of care criteria?
Otherwise, we all want to sign up right now.
Yes.
Well,
sign me up.
The experience I had taking care of a loved one all came down, everybody just wanted to know insurance and money. And you didn't qualify for home care in anything. You had to pay for it out of pocket.
Yeah, so with PACE...
Non-nursing. Any non-nursing service.
So with PACE, receiving that money from Medicare and Medicaid, what's unique about it, and I know it's very different than traditional like Medicare and Medicaid health plans now and the benefits. So with PACE, receiving that money, really what the interdisciplinary team is able to do is be really creative. So when we say, you guys would be receiving Medicare and Medicaid services, and then anything else that the interdisciplinary team feels is appropriate or needed to help keep somebody safe and independent at home. So we do provide things like, as part of our interdisciplinary team, we have a home care coordinator. Home health aides are part of the PACE benefit. It's part of our the care that we provide. So those things don't have an additional cost. Things like durable medical equipment or incontinence supplies or home modifications, right? Personal emergency response systems like a life alert. All of that is included with PACE, and then managed and coordinated by the interdisciplinary team.
All right. Well, thank you all three so much for today. So much more information that I know you could share, and so I don't know if you have a few minutes after, but you also can find more information at the wjct.org/caregiver site for more information and resources. So now, two things. One is you have a survey on your table. Please do that for us. It gives us the feedback we need to make sure we were responsive to your needs and help us plan for future events. And 2, remember to go to that Better Age website with the QR code, or go to the website through our website and take that self-assessment and take your own journey with your health and wellness. Take care of yourselves. Then now we have a drawing. So, go ahead.
The lucky winner is. Okay. Must be present to win. Sherry Hugh. All right, congratulations. That's great, thank you.
All right, one more hand for our sponsors and our speakers.
Yay.
Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you here Saturday for our last session in the series. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Stay hydrated. Good picture, don't run away.